The sun was setting on a typical day in the small town of Willow Creek. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees. In the midst of this serene scene, a little girl named Lily ran towards her father, John, who was waiting outside the daycare center. Lily was only 5 years old, but she had a spirit that was much older than her age. Her eyes were usually filled with curiosity and joy, but today they were brimming with tears. As she approached John, her small frame shook with sobs, and her tiny hands clutched at his shirt. "Daddy," she cried. "Daddy, I'm scared." John's heart clenched at the sight of his daughter in such distress. He bent down to her level, wrapping his arms around her in a comforting embrace. "What's wrong, sweetie? What happened at daycare?" Lily took a deep, shuddering breath before she spoke. "There's something bad happening there, Daddy. Something really, really bad." John felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that children often have vivid imaginations, but the fear in Lily's voice was unmistakable. "Tell me what it is, honey. I promise I'll protect you." Lily hesitated for a moment, her lower lip trembling. Then, she looked up at her father with wide, frightened eyes. "Mr. Thompson. He does things to us when no one else is looking." John's blood ran cold. Mr. Thompson was one of the caregivers at the daycare center. He had always seemed kind and trustworthy, but now John wasn't so sure. He held Lily tighter, trying to calm both of them down. "Okay, sweetie," he said softly. "Let's go home and talk about this more. We'll figure out what to do." As they walked to the car, John's mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that something truly sinister was going on at the daycare. He made a silent vow to get to the bottom of it, no matter what it took. The drive home was tense and silent. John's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more terrifying than the last. He glanced over at Lily in the passenger seat. Her eyes were fixed on her lap, tears still streaming down her cheeks. She looked so small and vulnerable. John reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "We're going to make sure you're safe." Lily nodded, but she didn't look convinced. When they finally arrived home, John helped her out of the car and led her inside. He sat her down on the couch and knelt in front of her, taking both of her hands in his. "Can you tell me more about what Mr. Thompson does?" he asked softly. "I need to know everything so I can help you." Lily took a deep breath and began to speak. He tells us to go into the back room when no one else is around, and then he makes us do things that don't feel right. He says if we tell anyone, he'll hurt us." John felt a wave of anger and fear wash over him. How could someone entrusted with the care of children do such terrible things? He had to act fast to protect not only Lily but also the other children at the daycare. "Thank you for telling me, honey," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You did the right thing. Now, let's call Mommy and see what she thinks we should do." John pulled out his phone and dialed his wife, Sarah. She answered on the first ring, her voice filled with concern when she heard the worry in John's voice. "Sarah, something's happened," he said. "Lily told me some disturbing things about Mr. Thompson at the daycare. We need to talk about this right away." Sarah's voice grew urgent. "What did she say? Is she okay?" John explained the situation as best he could, keeping an eye on Lily, who was now playing quietly with a stuffed animal. Sarah listened intently, her voice growing more and more concerned as John spoke. "We need to report this to the authorities," she said firmly. "And we need to warn the other parents. This can't go on any longer." John nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "I agree. Let's get this sorted out as soon as possible. Lily needs our help." With that, they hung up and John turned back to Lily. "Mommy and I are going to make sure you're safe. Okay? We're going to take care of everything." Lily looked up at him with a small smile. "Okay, Daddy. I trust you." John hugged her tightly, feeling a renewed sense of determination. He would do whatever it took to protect his little girl and the other children at the daycare, no matter what the cost. John and Sarah sat in the living room, their minds racing as they tried to figure out what to do next. The weight of the situation was heavy on both of them. They knew that they had to act quickly and decisively if they were going to protect Lily and the other children at the daycare. "First things first," Sarah said, her voice firm and determined. "We need to report this to the authorities. We can't let Mr. Thompson get away with what he's doing." John nodded in agreement. "I'll call the police right now, and we should also contact the other parents at the daycare. They need to know what's going on so they can take action too." Sarah reached for the phone and began dialing numbers, while John started making a list of all the parents he could think of. As he wrote, his mind wandered back to the day when he and Sarah had chosen the daycare center for Lily. It had seemed like such a safe and nurturing place, but now it felt like a nightmare. He remembered the first time he had met Mr. Thompson. He had seemed kind and caring, always smiling and talking to the children. But now John couldn't shake the feeling that there was something sinister lurking beneath that friendly exterior. As Sarah finished making the calls, she turned to John with a look of concern on her face. "The police are on their way," she said, "and I've managed to reach a few of the other parents. They're all shocked and worried, just like we are." John nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. At least they weren't alone in this. Together, they could make a difference and protect the children from harm. Just then, the doorbell rang. John got up and opened the door to reveal 2 police officers standing outside. They introduced themselves and asked to come in. John led them to the living room where Sarah was waiting. "Can you tell us what happened?" one of the officers asked, taking out a notebook and pen. John took a deep breath and began to explain the situation, starting from the moment Lily had run crying to him after daycare. He recounted every detail that Lily had told him, trying to be as clear and concise as possible. The officers listened intently, nodding occasionally as John spoke. When he finished, they exchanged a glance before turning back to him. "This is very serious," the officer said. "We'll need to investigate further and gather more evidence. In the meantime, we'll make sure that Mr. Thompson is removed from the daycare center immediately." John felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He knew that the police would do everything in their power to protect the children and bring the perpetrator to justice. As the officers left, John turned to Sarah with a look of determination on his face. "We're not done yet," he said. "We need to make sure that this never happens again. We need to fight for change and make sure that all children are safe and protected." Sarah nodded in agreement. "You're right. We can't just sit back and let this go. We have to take action and make a difference." Together, they began to brainstorm ideas for how they could make a difference. They talked about organizing a community meeting to raise awareness about the issue, contacting local politicians to push for stricter regulations on childcare facilities, and even starting a support group for parents who had been affected by similar situations. As they talked, John felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but he was determined to see it through. For Lily, and for all the other children who deserved to grow up in a safe and loving environment. The days that followed were filled with intense activity. John and Sarah worked tirelessly to gather information and build a case against Mr. Thompson. They contacted other parents at the daycare center and encouraged them to come forward with any information they might have. Slowly but surely, a picture began to emerge of the horrors that had been taking place behind closed doors. One by one, the parents came forward with their own stories of abuse and neglect. Some had noticed strange bruises or marks on their children, while others had heard unexplained noises coming from the back rooms of the daycare. But none of them had known what to do or who to turn to for help. John and Sarah listened to each story with growing horror and anger. How could someone entrusted with the care of children do such terrible things? They vowed to do everything in their power to bring Mr. Thompson to justice and make sure that no other child would ever have to suffer like this again. Meanwhile, the police investigation was moving forward at a rapid pace. Officers interviewed witnesses, collected evidence, and built a strong case against Mr. Thompson. They also worked closely with Child Protection Services to ensure that all the children at the daycare center were safe and well cared for. As the investigation progressed, John and Sarah found themselves becoming increasingly involved in the process. They attended meetings with the police and child protection officials, offered their support to other parents, and even testified in court when the time came. It was a difficult and emotional journey, but they knew that it was worth it. Every step they took brought them closer to justice and a safer future for all children. Finally, the day of the trial arrived. John and Sarah sat in the courtroom, surrounded by other parents and supporters. They watched as Mr. Thompson was brought in, his face pale and his eyes downcast. As the judge read out the charges against him, John felt a surge of satisfaction and relief. After hours of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a guilty verdict. Mr. Thompson was sentenced to a lengthy prison term, and the daycare center was shut down permanently. John and Sarah breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that justice had been served. But their work was far from over. They continued to advocate for stronger regulations and oversight of childcare facilities, working with local politicians and community leaders to make a real difference. They also started a support group for parents who had been affected by similar situations, offering a safe space for them to share their experiences and find healing. Through it all, John and Sarah remained committed to their mission of protecting children and creating a safer world for them to grow up in. They knew that the road ahead would be long and challenging, but they were ready to face it head-on, armed with love, courage, and an unwavering determination to make a difference. In the months that followed, John and Sarah's efforts began to bear fruit. Their advocacy work gained widespread attention, and they were invited to speak at conferences and events across the country. They shared their story with anyone who would listen, hoping to inspire others to take action and make a difference in their own communities. Their support group for parents grew rapidly, attracting members from all walks of life. People came together to share their experiences, offer advice and encouragement, and find solace in the knowledge that they were not alone. John and Sarah were proud to see the impact they were having, and they knew that their work was making a real difference in the lives of countless families. But perhaps the most rewarding part of their journey was seeing the positive changes in Lily. With the help of counseling and therapy, she began to heal from the trauma she had experienced. She started to smile and laugh again, and her eyes regained their sparkle. John and Sarah watched with joy as their little girl blossomed into a happy, confident child. They knew that the road to recovery would be long and challenging, but they were determined to be there for Lily every step of the way. They spent countless hours playing with her, reading to her, and simply being present for her. They wanted her to know that she was loved and valued, and that nothing could ever change that. As the years went by, John and Sarah continued to work tirelessly for the cause of child protection. They traveled the world, speaking at conferences and events, and inspiring others to take action. They wrote books and articles, sharing their story and offering practical advice for parents and caregivers. And through it all, they remained committed to their mission of creating a safer world for children. They knew that there was still much work to be done, but they were ready to face it head-on, armed with love, courage, and an unwavering determination to make a difference. For John and Sarah, the journey had been long and difficult, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. They had seen firsthand the power of love, compassion, and perseverance, and they knew that anything was possible when people came together for a common cause. And so, they continued to fight, day after day, year after year, knowing that their work was making a real difference in the lives of countless children. They were proud to be part of a movement that was changing the world, one child at a time. And they knew that as long as they kept fighting, there was hope for a brighter, safer future for all children. Years passed, and the impact of John and Sarah's efforts continued to resonate throughout their community and beyond. Their advocacy work had sparked a nationwide movement for child protection, leading to stricter regulations and oversight in childcare facilities across the country. The support group they had started grew into a national organization, providing resources and assistance to countless families who had been affected by similar situations. Lily, now a vibrant and confident teenager, became an integral part of her parents' mission. She began speaking at events, sharing her own story with courage and grace. Her voice added a powerful dimension to the cause, reminding everyone of the importance of protecting children from harm. Lily's resilience and strength inspired many, proving that even after facing unimaginable challenges, one could rise above and make a positive difference. John and Sarah were overjoyed to see their daughter flourish. They watched as she excelled in school, made meaningful friendships, and pursued her passions. Lily's journey was a testament to the power of love, support, and healing. She had become a beacon of hope, showing others that it was possible to overcome adversity and live a fulfilling life. As the years went by, John and Sarah's commitment to child protection remained unwavering. They continued to travel, speak, and write, spreading their message far and wide. They collaborated with experts, policymakers, and other advocates to develop comprehensive strategies for safeguarding children. Their tireless efforts led to groundbreaking policies and initiatives that significantly reduced the risk of abuse and neglect in childcare settings. The couple also dedicated time to mentoring young leaders in the field of child protection. They believed in empowering the next generation to carry forward the torch of advocacy and change. Through workshops, seminars, and one-on-one guidance, John and Sarah nurtured the skills and passion of aspiring activists, ensuring that their legacy would live on long after they were gone. Their home became a hub of activity, filled with like-minded individuals working together towards a common goal. Friends, colleagues, and supporters gathered regularly to brainstorm ideas, share experiences, and plan future campaigns. The atmosphere was one of camaraderie and shared purpose, fueled by the collective desire to create a safer world for all children. Despite the challenges and setbacks they faced along the way, John and Sarah never lost sight of their vision. They remained steadfast in their belief that every child deserved to grow up in a loving, secure environment free from harm. Their dedication and perseverance served as an inspiration to countless others, proving that even the most daunting obstacles could be overcome with determination and unity. As John and Sarah approached their golden years, they reflected on the incredible journey they had embarked upon so many years ago. The memory of that fateful day when Lily had run crying to her father still lingered in their minds, but it was now intertwined with countless moments of triumph, growth, and transformation. They looked back on the milestones they had achieved, the lives they had touched, the policies they had influenced, and the communities they had empowered. Each success was a reminder of the power of love, compassion, and resilience. They knew that their work had made a tangible difference in the world, and that knowledge brought them immense satisfaction and peace. But more than anything, John and Sarah cherished the bond they had forged with their daughter. Lily had grown into a remarkable young woman, carrying forward the legacy of her parents' mission. She had found her own voice and was using it to inspire change, just as her parents had done before her. Together, the family continued to advocate for child protection, drawing on their combined experiences and strengths. They traveled the world, sharing their story and offering guidance to those in need. Their message of hope and resilience resonated with people from all walks of life, reminding everyone that no challenge was insurmountable when faced with love and determination. As they neared the end of their journey, John and Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They knew that their work would continue long after they were gone, carried forward by the countless individuals they had inspired and mentored. The legacy they had built was a testament to the power of human connection and the unyielding spirit of those who fought for what was right. And so, as they sat together in their living room, surrounded by memories and mementos of their incredible journey, John and Sarah smiled at each other with contentment. They knew that they had lived a life of purpose and meaning, and that their love and dedication would continue to shine brightly, illuminating the path for generations to come. In the end, their story was not just about the horrors they had faced or the battles they had fought. It was about the love they had shared, the hope they had kindled, and the enduring legacy they had left behind. And as they closed their eyes, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, they knew that their hearts would always be connected by the unbreakable bonds of family, love, and the unwavering pursuit of justice for all children.